Welcome to the 2022 Year End Extravaganza presented by Orbi, featuring your hosts Paul J. Daly and Kyle Mountsier. Final guest of the day is the CEO of Automotive Ventures and author of the brand new book, The Future of Automotive Retail. Please welcome Steve Greenfield.
You never really know what we're going to get you into, do you, when you say yes?
This is not scripted, so I have no idea what they're going to throw at me.
No, because
Have at it.
we didn't even
Have
talk.
at it.
Yeah, because we pretty much said, hey, we're doing a thing in Nashville.
Show up.
On the 20th. Will you come? You say, yeah, I'll go.
Of course.
We had zero details.
Yeah.
Zero details.
I think we had this is what's funny is we had just had a conversation about how you had dinner in Vegas only and had been in Vegas for, so you're just, I love you just up for like,
Just
kind
show
of
up
a world
anywhere.
travel.
That's very good, very good. Any special holiday traditions? It's my favorite question today.
So I need to get a pair of Scott's socks
Cat socks.
because I have 10 cats in the house right now, all rescues.
Did you have 10 earlier? Are you plus one from like a few
We're
months
plus
ago?
one. I'm plus
because
one.
I thought it was
Good,
9.
good, late
I thought
attacking,
it was
late
9.
attacking. So yeah, there's never a dull moment in my house. But we'll get up to Toronto, back where I'm from, to see my mother and my sister for a couple of days. But can't leave the cats alone for too long because you never know what you're going to come back to.
I can't imagine 10 cats.
I can't
having to run
imagine
in the-
either.
Yes, he's like, I don't have to imagine. I'm about to go home.
It's not an ordinary life. It's for sure. It's not an ordinary life at all.
Well, that's good because you seem like a pretty orderly person, like very measured, very thoughtful in the way you dissect situations.
You just don't know me very well.
That's good. That's good. Well, that's the startup life. There's been so much motion in your world this year. From pointing out new companies to invest in, from starting a dealer fund and democratizing dealer investment. What is kind of the one that has risen to the top? Because you have all these lanes going. Your newsletter's doing great. What's kind of at the top of the heap?
And I find myself, I'm the chairman of a public company. We took a SPAC public last December.
You find
and
yourself.
we found our target company, thankfully.
Yeah.
The SPAC market has not been stable. So yeah, a lot going on this year. But I don't know. I mean, I think that I appreciate the fact that at this point in my career, 22 years in, I'm having a different interaction with owners. Right? So now I can sit with owners who own 1 store or 15 stores and have an entirely different conversation about what's keeping them up at night and looking to the horizon 3, 5, 10 years from now with these trends in the industry to try to anticipate which ones will impact them the most and how to prepare for those things. And it's something, when I was on the quote-unquote vendor side for 22 years, never had the opportunity really to interact with owners at all and definitely not sort of have them open up about their concerns, their challenges.
The fences are up from
Correct.
the beginning.
Yeah, because we're selling them things. I'm not really selling them things any longer, right?
Yeah.
I can be a thought partner now around the future and how the future might unfold.
What's the fear that comes up the most?
I think relevancy. Right, so part of it is this friction between the manufacturers and the dealers, which has always existed, but it seems to be much more heightened over the last 18 months. Right, we're seeing the OEMs in many cases outside the U.S. move more to an agency model, and definitely taking the opportunity under the guise of EVs to redefine the relationship with dealers. But then also, it seems to be increasingly a game of scale. Right, single operators, and love hearing from Damon, who was up on stage earlier, but single operators really are saying there are advantages, cost advantages and other advantages of having more stores. We heard from Liza earlier. She's seeing advantages from tucking in more stores and building a bigger platform, so to speak. And I think that increasingly the single store owner is going to be under pressure to find efficiencies that are only available to folks that own multiple stores.
Relevancy. Leave it to you to solve it in one word.
That's a good word. As you're looking at, because you've started this dealer fund and it's not just a dealer fund for what you kind of find. There's also a directive behind it that you're asking those dealers to say hey, this is the tech that we need to lean into. What are those dealers asking for, and what is the tech that you're out there trying to kind of solve for, find, or help people create?
Yeah, so multiple different areas, but what Kyle, you're mentioning really is the fact that we're allowing the dealers to drive strategy within this new fund, right? So spending time with a lot of progressive dealers to understand where they want us to go look for investments. I would put broadly into two categories. One is where are dealers today leaving money on the ground? So for example, leads aren't typically followed up on after 7 days. we're onto the new leads, but we know there's gems in those leads. You know, I have many dealers that ask me, hey, can you automate a process to follow up with a consumer that's either turned down F&I products, but still might have the intention to buy F&I products, but 7, 14, 28 days later, or turn down service. I know that car still needs that work done. They've turned it down at point of sale, but I know I can go back to them and in a kind, nurturing kind of way, get them to come back into the store and get the service done. And then the flip side, which I think is going to be a big thematic area over the next couple of years that we get excited with is cost takeouts. And we've heard a little bit of that on stage today, finding efficiencies. But I believe, you know, the dealership of the future is going to be able to sell and service more cars with fewer employees and find efficient ways to do more and be more productive, effectively looking at their cost structure and taking costs out of the system. Alex mentioned that earlier when he was on stage. I think that's going to be a big thematic area that over the last 10 years, we haven't seen a lot of vendors at NADA focus on helping dealers take costs out. I think we're going to see this whole new thematic area over the next 5 years, and we want to be on the forefront of that, finding companies and investing in companies that help dealers take costs out of their system.
I mean, is that just kind of a derivative effect of being so profit rich right now, right? Why cut costs when I can keep my foot all the way down on the throttle?
Yeah. Well, that's what I feel. A lot of dealers are sort of like, don't mess with success over the last 2 years. Don't change anything.
Well, you're wasting money. It's like, I don't care. I'm making more than I'm wasting.
That's right, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Just don't touch anything. Don't touch the dials. But I do believe we're going to come out of that. That may have bred some pretty unhealthy habits on the cost side that won't really get exposed. Like, you know, what Warren Buffett says, you know, no one knows who's swimming without swim trunks until the tide goes out. And I think, you know, when profits come under a little bit more pressure, we're going to see maybe dealers needing help taking costs out of the system.
So shifting, because obviously you're focused on dealers and those conversations, but a lot of the communication and the just like insights that you allow the automotive industry to see are not just EV, but also all the way to autonomy or alternate travel. You know, let's start with, what was the reason for kind of like having that as a layer that you added to kind of like dealer, you know, it's kind of started dealer tech, you know, dealer public valuations, that kind of thing, and you've transitioned to kind of give dealers the access to know what's going on in that other side. What was the reason for that move? Because
I think that, you know, we need to put things into the perspective of, you know, all of us are working on helping transport people by ground transportation. But there'll be other ways we move goods, not non-humans, around, and that can be via ground, but it also can be via water or via air, right? So I think these things will, I'm not going to say they'll converge in the future, but they'll be, you know, for example, I came from Atlanta this morning, 4-hour drive. I was like, do I fly up? As much as I love Delta, I mean, do I fly up or do I drive up? Well, actually, I went to Enterprise this morning, rented a car, picked up the car and drove up here today, and I'll drive back this evening. But I think there are different modes of transport that are going to start to converge, and consumers are going to be able to make those choices. I think all of us have to look at sort of like how we move humans and goods, not only through automobiles, because as autonomy hits and electrification, et cetera, there'll be other choices. And I think we'd be short-sighted to only look at it through with the blinders on of how we've always served these types of customers.
Can you just tell us what the best way is to connect with you? We haven't done this the whole show, but I love your newsletter so much that I want people to know about it.
Well, if you can't find me, I'm not doing a good job.
Right, right. That's so true.
Partially thanks to you guys.
Here you are.
Partially thanks to you guys. Yeah. But AutomotiveVentures.com, you can find me on LinkedIn. The best way, you can subscribe for a free newsletter on AutomotiveVentures.com. And as always, happy to have conversations with anyone about the industry.
Steve, thank you so much for coming all the way up here and spending some time with us. As usual, down for anything. Thank you.
Merry Christmas.